Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from Hasbro in their Transformers Studio Series line, we are featuring War for Cybertron Optimus Prime. Alright, so this belongs to the Gamer Edition, and it's action figure number 3. The other two Gamer Edition figures include Barricade and Bumblebee. And I think those are deluxe class figures, whereas this one is, I think it's Voyager scale. Yeah, so this is a Voyager class. I'm going to apologize in advance. I am not going to transform Optimus Prime. If anything, we're just going to unbox him and take a look at his robot mode only. If you've seen my Transformer videos, they're terrible. I'm just horrible at transforming Transformers on camera for the first time. Generally, I have to fiddle around with them for a little bit before I get a hang and feel for it. But in this case, I don't want to torture you through that process of me trying to figure out how to transform him. So if anything, we'll just closely examine the robot, how detailed he is, and his articulation. So this is a Voyager class action figure. I purchased this online through Amazon. As of this date, it's April 29th, 2023, and I just received it in the mail yesterday. The back of the box indicates he's 22 steps of articulation. It's described as big screen inspired scale, detail, and backdrop. There isn't really any bio on this, which is unfortunate. Beautiful character portrait on the lower left. So, if you're not familiar with this design of Optimus Prime, the War for Cybertron was a video game that hit consoles and PC back in 2010. So, you're looking at a design that's, 13 years old. War for Cybertron, it was a popular video game, and then I think in 2012 they released a sequel, Fall of Cybertron. Both were fantastic video games. They were kind of really riding the wave of popularity of Transformers at the time. And this design is different than the Fall of Cybertron. If you've played both games, you'll remember that Optimus's design slightly changed in the second game. There's been a couple of third-party companies like Planet X that have tackled the War for Cybertron design, but I think they more specifically covered the second game, Optimus, not the first one. What else do we have to talk about here? Here's another nice illustration. I believe this is new artwork created specifically for the figure and the promotional material and the package design. I don't think this was concept art from the video game. I love how the box features a die cut on the side with the D-pad from the game controller. It's kind of neat. And like I mentioned, 22 steps. He comes with a detailed backdrop. And let's get started. I'm a little scatterbrained this morning, so if I have a tendency to kind of ramble on and just speak a lot of nonsense, it's because I just kind of woke up and I don't have all my marbles straightened out in my head. And then we have the beautiful backdrop that comes included. Excellent to display your Optimus with, especially if you have a nice shelf or display case. It folds out a little, so it's nice. It's a really cool detailed enclosure. It's a nice bonus. I'm glad that they do stuff like that. And then here we have Optimus from War for Cybertron. The first video game back in 2010. Alright, before I forget, I did dig out the instructions from the box. I forgot about these. We'll take a look at this in a second. Alright, so in addition to the action figure, which we have here, we have his Energon axe, or power axe, or whatever it is. It's kind of cool that we're getting this accessory, because if you remember for the original figure that we got 13 years ago, he did not, I don't believe he came with the axe. I think the axe was something that if you wanted, you had to seek it out through a third party. And I want to say, I think it was Corbot who made a third party accessory that resembled the energy axe. Theirs was really cool too, because they actually used like, I think orange transparent plastic for the blade. So it kind of recreated the Energon effect really nicely. Here's Optimus's blaster. And I don't know how this goes onto his hand. I don't see a peg. Here's the instruction manual. Studio Series Gamer Edition 3. He transforms in 22 steps. Wow, that's interesting. Wow, there's some weird stuff going on here. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about it. Yeah, the transformation looks alright, but I think one thing that kind of I'm kind of taken back with is the way you mount his gun. So one thing I noticed when I took out his gun is that his rifle doesn't have, there's no handle. So I was trying to figure out how do you mount this on his arm? Because with most Optimus Prime figures, as with most, I think, Transformer figures, there's always going to be like a 5mm peg that serves as the handle of the weapon. And generally, it is kind of like insert it into his hand. But in this case here, there's no handle. So looking at the instructions, if you want to mount the gun on, you have to remove his forearm, which is kind of weird. So it says here I need to remove this. Wow, that's a first. I don't recall ever having to remove Optimus's hand to like insert his gun. So you remove his hand, which comes off surprisingly a little bit too easily. It's snug enough. I'm just, but I figure over time it might loosen up, but it's not like a super tight fit. But it does hold in place. And then if you don't want to use it, I guess you just mount it on his back. Yeah, it indicates it right there. That's a weird design choice. I don't understand that. And to make things even weirder, you can't mount the hand. You can't store it going up because it conflicts with the waist here. It seems like the most logical thing was put a socket there and store it up here. It seems weird that you have to store it on his butt, and then he has his fist dangling off of his butt. That's kind of odd. And then if you want to mount the cannon, you bend his arm and you mount the socket to the peg right there. It looks cool, but I think it's a weird design choice. Yeah, so I'm kind of conflicted because it does look all right, but at the same time, I think it would have been cooler and a lot simpler if they just gave him a 5mm handle and just insert it into his hand like, most figures. It seems very bizarre that you'd store this piece on his butt. And this is one of those deals where I could imagine kids losing this and then, he's without an arm. And the funny thing is, the opposite arm does not detach. So this one's permanently affixed. So yeah, really interesting design choice. I'm not sure how I feel about it. For me, it would have made more sense to give Optimus a 5mm peg like this and just insert it into his hand. That's the most common way we've always done things. But I guess it's, a unique design choice that they kind of felt was necessary. Not that this looks bad. I think it looks all right, but I just think having a handle would have been better. All right, enough about that. Let's examine the figure up close. All right, so real quick, one last pass at the Energon axe. It's nicely detailed. You kind of have that weird, like, hieroglyphic scribing on top of the blade. And it does disassemble right there. And I guess there's different options for mounting it. Let's remove the blaster again. Again, let's take a close look at it. You know, there's some semblance to Optimus's blaster. Like the stock here, it kind of resembles the old shape, but it's a little bit lowered. And let's remount his forearm. Like that. Examining him closely, the head sculpt is really nice. He has the elongated antennas. Nice shade of silver for the windscreen. He has the Autobot badge on both shoulders, not just the one. With some figures, like I think the Masterpiece figures, some of them would have the badge, I believe, on the left shoulder only. Nice gray plastic with some red detailing around the pelvic area. He maintains the traditional color scheme on his legs with the blue and then the silver. It looks like his smokestacks, I think, are mounted. Are these? I'm not sure if these are the exhaust or the smokestacks, but they're on his legs. He's not too excessively kibbly on the back. Like, the backpack isn't too offensive. Like, I know with some figures, you know, they get too crazy, but here, the backpack's kind of reasonable. And it kind of still maintains the character design with the wheels on the back. So, overall, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty solid. In terms of height, if you're curious, with this being a Voyager figure, this guy stands in at a little over 6¼ inches. It's much smaller than like Voyager figures that we've gotten like maybe like 5 years ago, but you know, this is kind of like the new standard. Yeah, so it's really well presented, nice details. Definitely a different take on Optimus Prime, especially if you're more used to him being in the, you know, the cab form. The game came out so long ago, you know, it's like one of those things where I'm not sure how many people remember the game or how many people played the game. If you're a younger collector, this design might be completely alien to you. And if it is, I'd suggest seeking out and trying out the old video games. The second one especially was really good. I enjoyed that one a lot, Fall of Cybertron. But again, that design is slightly different than this Optimus. His articulation, head rotates, kind of nods a little, looks up, pretty decent. Articulated arms. You're getting all sorts of range of motion, which is nice. Wrist articulation also. As I indicated earlier, in order to mount the rifle, you have to remove this arm and then attach it like that, which is all right. I can live with that. It's still bothersome that you have to store the forearm on his butt. I'm not too keen on that. He swivels at the waist. Legs go out. Full splits. They go up. You have a thigh swivel towards the top, articulated knees, and articulated ankles to kind of rock so you can level out. Overall, fantastic looking action figure. And again, I apologize for not transforming this. You know, this figure's out, so I'm sure if you go around on YouTube, you could find a much more detailed, thorough review than mine. And lastly, just for the hell of it, we have this, the original figure from 2010, I believe. Now, what's crazy is that back in the day, this was considered a deluxe class figure. And nowadays, this is considered a Voyager class. And if you look at the size, you know, the size difference, even though this is larger, it's not considerably larger. There's definitely a little bit more plastic involved. But at the same time, this figure almost feels a little bit heavier than the newer one. Surprisingly. And I'm tempted to say that this one might be more truer to the truer to the actual aesthetic of Optimus in the video game than this one. Also, I think this might have been the second release of the figure. Because I think the paint job on this is a little bit more premium, and I think this is the second release, because I think the second release had all the Energon blue light piping that we see right here, and I want to say this might have been part of a double pack. But it's the same character, just different eras. You know, this one was produced 13 years ago. This one is produced, you know, just like, you know, within the span of maybe the last year. So is this something you need in your collection? I think it depends. If you're very fond of the original one, and if you already have the cast of toys they made, you know, 13 years ago, this might be an easy pass unless you just want, you know, an updated figure. Is it a complete upgrade? I think it's debatable. You know, I think the original War for Cybertron Optimus is a pretty neat looking figure. And like I was talking about, the nice thing with this one, you just mount the gun on his hand. You know, it's simple, pull it out. You don't have to like remove his forearm or anything, so. But yeah, it's a great figure. I'm glad I have it. You know, I think it's kind of cool to have both figures. I think it'd be even a fun thing to do would be for Hasbro down the road to maybe do one of their premium paint jobs and do a double pack, and you know, maybe like a deluxe box set. You know, they could like call it like the evolution of War for Cybertron Optimus, and give you both versions. You know, give you the old one and the new one, because I think, you know, the old one still holds up really well. It's a nice looking figure. So it's cool. You know, I dig the fact that after all these years, Hasbro is going back to revisit a video game that's 13 years old. It's kind of nuts. You know, that's something that, you know, we see with third-party companies. They'll go out and, you know, tap into the deep Transformer lore, whether it's the comic books or video games, and produce figures that Hasbro never tackled. But it's kind of interesting that Hasbro decided to go back and refresh, you know, War for Cybertron Optimus. Alright, so I feel like I'm kind of babbling now, so let's just wrap this one up. It's a cool figure. If you're an Optimus fan, I think it's worth picking up just because it's such a unique design compared to other Optimus figures that we've gotten over the last few years. You know, with the focus being more so on the evergreen design, it's nice that we're getting something that's a little bit different. You know, it's his Cybertronian form. So it's, you know, I highly encourage you to check this out at the very least. You know, watch a couple of other reviews and see if it agrees with you. Alright, so let's wrap this up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy.